Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to give some feedback on Artyom's speaking test. So let's check it out.
Good morning. My name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Yeah, my name is Artem IELTS.
And what should I call you?
You could call me just Artem.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to
So just a reminder, when the examiner asks for your full name and when the examiner asks what can I call you, this is not part of the test. Doesn't matter how you answer.
ask you some questions about yourself. Where are you from?
I am from Russia.
And which
Okay, a bit of a short answer, right? I'm from Russia. I don't like long answers to this question, where are you from? But, give me the town, the city, the country, and maybe just a little bit of information, right? I'm from Caerphilly. It's a small town just outside Cardiff in Wales. I'm from St. Petersburg. It's situated in the north of Russia. Or I'm from, I don't know, I'm from Paris, which is the capital city of France. Just a little bit of extra information.
town or city do you live in?
I come from Omsk. It's a Siberian
Cool, I like this. I come from, it sounds very simple, but a lot of people don't use it. But I come from Omsk, nice.
town, but now I live in Moscow because I study in it.
Okay, that's nice development. A little bit of development could be extended more, but yeah, a good answer there.
And do you like Moscow?
Yeah, I would say I'm a big fan of Moscow because there are lots of opportunities there.
Not sure about the use of there. I think here is better because if he's in Moscow, when he talks about Moscow, he should use here instead of there. But okay.
And maybe different kind of facilities.
Again, the language is just a little bit vague. There are lots of opportunities and different kinds of facilities. Well, opportunity and facility, they're very broad, like vague words. Can you give examples of opportunities? Do you mean like job opportunities? Do you mean opportunities to be an artist or opportunities to, I don't know, be a musician or something? And when you talk about facilities, what exactly do you mean there? I understand facilities like a hotel has facilities, but when you say a city has facilities, not quite sure what you mean.
And another important thing about Moscow is can we
Language is just a little bit mechanical with pronunciation. Just listen to it again.
and maybe different kind of facilities. And another important thing about Moscow is
Another important thing about Moscow is pitch is quite low, not much intonation, quite flat, and words are kind of, or not even words, but syllables are kind of separated. So English is what we call a stress-timed language, not a syllable-timed language, and so this type of pronunciation is not really suitable.
convenient transportation system.
Cool, love that collocation, transportation system, very nice.
And what are some of the most
Maybe give some details. Could follow it up with some details about the wonderful metro in Moscow and the network of buses and things like this. But okay, maybe you've already done enough extension.
famous places in Moscow?
Well, of course, the most famous place in Moscow is the Red Square.
Red Square without the article. So Palace Square, Red Square, Trafalgar Square without the article. Not the Red Square, just Red Square.
And I enjoy walking in the Red Square.
Okay, accurate. I enjoy walking with good use of gerund. He's linking the grammar. He's putting the grammar together in quite a methodical way. You can see that candidate has a good basis in grammar, but very often accuracy, not just with Artyom, but for many students who are accurate tend to be less fluent, and students who are fluent tend to be less accurate. So in this case, it's just affecting the pronunciation a little bit. The fact that he's working hard to use the correct grammar means that he is thinking more, and because he is thinking more, this sometimes negatively affects the flow of speech. And that flow of speech is important for fluency and coherence, but also for pronunciation.
Every month, approximately.
Love approximately, very nice.
Yeah, it's the most attractive place for tourists also.
It's true. I've been to Red Square many times. It's yeah, an amazing, amazing part of the world.
And is there anything you'd like to change about Moscow?
Well, you know, sometimes there are a lot of traffic jams in
So I like that disfluency. You know, I like that as a way to start. You know, sometimes there are a lot of traffic jams. Nice.
Moscow, and it's not a big problem for me
Finally, we get a bit of intonation. It's not a big problem for me. Finally, we get a bit of intonation.
because I cannot drive, but I know that it's a big problem.
But then we're going back to flat intonation. So when we think about intonation, we think about whether there is an example of intonation to get, you know, the minimum required marks, or like to get into that band 5, band 6. But then when we talk about band 7 or band 8, we think about sustaining intonation over long stretches of speech, or sustaining or maintaining intonation throughout the whole test. So we can see from Artem that, you know, most of it is flat intonation, but there are, at least we've had some attempted intonation.
For many citizens, dwellers in Moscow.
I don't know about dwellers, people who live. I know very often Russians like looking for those, you know, one simple noun where a clause might be better. So people who live in Moscow, you could say residents perhaps, but more natural just to say people who live. Dwellers is just not quite precise here. I would never, or I know no people who say, yeah, it's good for dwellers in London. We just don't use that word, dwellers. I don't know if he's translating жители as dwellers, but жители, people who live in Moscow, people who live in the city. Residents, okay, but I like the clause, people who live in Moscow.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on now and talk about restaurants. Do you like eating out at restaurants or cafes?
Well,
How many times have we had well? I think we've had well a few times. So I'm going to keep my eye on that, just how often the candidate responds to a question with well.
I hate cooking, and that's
Another good gerund. I hate cooking. A little bit of intonation there too. I hate cooking.
why
Maybe I hate cooking. I'd like to see maybe more stress on hate than cooking. I hate cooking. I hate cooking. But okay, fine.
I like eating out, especially in
Cool. Phrase verb eating out. I think we had that in the question.
restaurants, because you know it's not only about eating, but also about connection and this atmosphere.
And do you have a favorite restaurant?
Well,
Again, we get a well.
maybe my university canteen, but
Cool, we get some intonation there. The only problem with this answer is that it doesn't really fit well with your previous answer, right? In your previous answer, you spoke about how you like eating out because it's not just about the food, it's also about the vibes. And so it seems a little bit strange then that your favorite restaurant is your university's canteen, because that's probably not a place you go to for the wonderful vibes and the connections, right? Probably that's a place you go to because it's kind of cheap and cheerful and maybe healthy, or maybe, you know, more convenient, rather than, you know, the good vibes.
it's not a restaurant, honestly. But if we're talking about particular restaurants, I don't think so, because
Cool, I like this. I don't think so instead of I think no. I don't think so. Very good.
yeah, I usually visit them not so often.
Bit of a problem with the v. Sometimes this happens with Russians. Their v is maybe just a little bit softer than our English v. So sometimes when Russians speak English, they pronounce their v as a w. I visit them, visit. And also the idea of visiting a restaurant. I don't know. Go to a restaurant for me is better than visit a restaurant. Visit relatives. It's not wrong to say visit a restaurant, but it's just not the exact precise word. But visit.
Often, I would say.
And what kind of food do you usually eat in this canteen?
Well,
We get another well.
I usually eat soup with some.
Quite a mechanical interaction. What kind of food do you usually eat? I usually eat soup. You could think about paraphrasing. The question is about what do you usually eat? And instead of usually, you could say sometimes or from time to time or I often or I always. So if it's not a huge problem, sometimes it's absolutely fine to echo back the language that is in the examiner's question. But remember, when we look at lexical resource, we do want to see some evidence of successful paraphrasing. And one way that you can paraphrase, there are many ways of paraphrasing, but one thing that you can paraphrase is the language in the examiner's question.
These words, and of course some meat with dish meal.
Just a kind of a z, just a kind of a z in the withs. Again, we've spoken many times about people having difficulty with the and th sounds, that often it comes out as d and t, but in the Russian speaking world it often comes out as z and s. So instead of this thing or this ting, we get this sing. Sometimes, just a little bit. Just listen to this with again.
With some these words, and well, I usually eat soup with some these words.
Just a little bit, isn't it? With some, but maybe that's because some is following. So okay, I can forget about this the sound for the moment.
And of course some meat with dish meal.
I don't know what that means. Some meat with dish meal. I don't know what that means. Meat with dish meal. Dish meal? Not quite sure.
Let's talk about traveling now. Do you like traveling?
Yes, I'm really into traveling.
Cool, I like this. Do you like? Yes, I'm really into traveling. That is a good paraphrase.
But honestly, I haven't.
So good use of adverb of comment honestly. We have had this, I think, once before or twice before already in this test, answering with honestly, but that's fine.
Visited a lot of countries.
Yeah, haven't visited, maybe visited a lot of countries is okay. I haven't been to a lot of countries is probably just a little bit more natural. I think Russians like using the verb visit instead of go because it's easier. First of all, with visit, we can have a direct object. Visit a place. And it's a regular verb. Visit, visited, visited. And so it's kind of difficult if you learn the more natural constructions. Go to a place, I went to a place, I've been to a place, I've gone to a place. And also then you have to think about different prepositions, like to go on a business trip or something like this. So I have a feeling, having taught many, many Russians in my life, that Russians often replace the verb go with the verb visit because visit is just easier for them. But in an IELTS test, when we look at the highest levels, we're looking for precision. And so while I visit this restaurant or I've visited many countries, it's understandable. It's absolutely okay. It's not the most natural option.
But I hope I did it. Sorry, I do it.
Cool, so he corrects himself there. Good.
Do you think it's better to have a holiday or vacation by the sea or in the mountains?
Well, it's really
We get another well.
a hard question for me because I like traveling in mountains and seas, and I cannot choose between these two options.
Cool, to choose between two options. Good. Good collocation. Vocab is very strong.
And does your country have any places that are popular for holidays or vacations?
Well,
Another well.
of course, Russia is the largest country in the world, and that's why there are lots of.
Cool, so we get some good chunking there. The largest country in the world. He links those things together, but in general, the speech is still a little bit slow.
Places to visit, and they are just gorgeous.
Just gorgeous. That's fine. Good vocab.
For example, the Black Sea is kind of sought after by many.
Not sought after, I think. So to seek something is to try to find or to look for something. So, is popular or is a common choice or is a desirable place. But I don't think sought after is quite the right compound adjective here, or participle adjective, rather.
Tourists in citizens.
Okay, thank you.
In citizens or for citizens?
Many tourists in citizens.
Oh, and
Okay,
citizens.
thank you. Now, in this next part of the text.
Okay, so comments on part one. Firstly, the length of the answers, absolutely fine, no problem with that. The only problem, or the main problem with fluency and coherence, is that the candidate often has to rely on quite slow speech. Not crazy slow speech, but the candidate must rely on slow speech in order to speak at length. So there's a lot of thinking going on. I think to make sure that his language is accurate, he's just slowing down and spending a bit of time making sure that he hits the right grammar. Vocab is definitely his strongest point so far. There are a couple of strange usages, like visit a restaurant, which is, it's okay, or it's a sought after place, which is like, I understand what you mean, but it's not absolutely precise. But certainly I think there is enough evidence so far to show some C1 vocab. Grammar is accurate without having a huge range. So one thing I'm going to look for in part two is grammatical range. The range of sentences, okay, fine, anyone above 5 or 6 uses simple and complex sentences, no problem with that. But what we're really looking for now is the wide range of structures. We know that the accuracy is there generally, the control is okay, no major basic systematic errors, but can we get that variety of structures? Can we get that wide range of structures? We'll see. In terms of pronunciation, the most important thing, of course, is that Artyom's speech is clear, it's easy to understand him, and generally, if it's clear and not crazy mechanical with some attempts at intonation, we're okay for that 6. Can we push higher for the 6? Higher than the 6? Well, that will be tough. We will need some major improvements to get higher than the 6. But let's get to part 2. Let's see what the task is first of all. Okay, so the task is to describe a family member you spend a lot of time with. Okay, so a lot of scope for vocab, but okay, who the person is, what you usually do together, what kind of person he or she is. So a lot of scope for language connected to personality, character, and explain why you spend so much time. Okay. So it's not like a past narrative, it's not a story, so no huge scope for like narrative tenses or things like this, but we'll see how Artyom does. And again, just to remind you, I'm going to look for that range of grammatical structures.
You spend a lot of time with. Now, please.
Okay, I'd like to kick off with a story about my grandma.
Not sure about kick off here. So kick off means to start. I'd like to kick off with a story of my grandma. That's fine if you say like, I'd like to kick off with a story about my grandma first, and then I'll tell you about something else, and then I'll tell you about something else. So when you kick off with something, it means you start with something, but then, it implies that you're going to speak about something else.
I really love her because I have been spending a lot of time with her in my childhood. And
okay, so we do get that. We start with that nice structure. I have been spending a lot of time with my grandma. Unfortunately, he uses the time adverbial in my childhood, so that isn't effective use of present perfect continuous. I used to spend a lot of time with my grandma. I spent a lot of time. Even possible, I was spending time, but not I have been spending time. That's not how we use present perfect continuous.
now, and I think that this cozy atmosphere that my grandma usually creates.
The cozy atmosphere that my grandma usually creates. Don't want to make that present simple mistake.
the most exciting thing about our relationship and about my visit here. I mean,
About my visit her. I don't know what that means in terms of grammar. About my visit her is just a collection of words not connected by grammar.
has usually she usually has plans
Cool. So he has to reformulate that, finding the correct position for usually, but he does find it. She usually has plans.
for everything, and you know,
And good that he's using that S, has plans. That's good.
what we are gonna to do.
Not what we are gonna to do. So with gonna, it's absolutely fine to use gonna, but after gonna we don't use to. So gonna already means going to, right? I'm gonna do my homework means I'm going to do my homework. So acceptable forms. I'm gonna do my homework, yes. I'm going to do my homework, yes. I'm gonna to do my homework,
And that's very valuable for me because you have a lot of opportunities to do, be it gardening or cooking.
So nice attempt at subjunctive there. You have a lot of things. You have a lot of opportunities for things to do. What was it? Be it gardening. Let's see again.
You have a lot of opportunities to do, be it gardening.
So not quite right. So you have a lot of opportunities to do, be it gardening. You have a lot of opportunities to do, or a lot of opportunities for a lot of things to do, be it gardening or something. So an attempt at the subjunctive, but not quite nailing it. But a nice attempt. I like this be it. Be it. It's very nice.
Or cooking, and as
I think it's subjunctive. It must be subjunctive.
for cooking, her food is really delicious, and
Okay, really delicious, fine.
I think that
But still, I haven't seen any evidence of an accurate wide range of structures yet. Some attempts at some more complex structures, but those attempts are unsuccessful.
and I think that that's why family gatherings in
Cool. I think that's why family gatherings. Very nice, complex sentence.
My grandma's house is so
Family gathering or family gatherings? Because you said is. Let's just listen.
the rings in and I think that that's why family gatherings
Family gatherings. So think about it. Gatherings is or gatherings are. I'm sure you know that it should be gatherings are, but you say
in my grandma's house is so
so you use is.
popular among my relatives because I think that's everybody loves her, and
We got the S this time. Everybody loves her. Good.
she is a beautiful inside and out, and
Okay, we're kind of running out of, if we think about a logical flow of a coherent text from start to finish, right? Think of an essay, like you have an introduction, you have the body one, you have the body two, you have the conclusion, that one point flows into the next point. But it feels like we've lost that flow now. So a candidate probably has run out of things to say, but the candidate is probably reasonably well prepared and knows that he should speak for the whole 2 minutes. And so now he's just trying to speak, and so he's just relying on descriptions of his grandmother, which is okay. It's better than saying nothing, I guess, but he's relying on descriptions of his grandmother, just stacked one on top of the other, but that doesn't form a coherent text.
I really feel this connection between her and me because I was raised by her.
Okay, I was raised by her. We get some past simple passive. Nice.
Partly or mostly, and despite the fact that now
I love this despite the fact that, but it's just run out of time. Thank you.
not
All right, so comments on part two. We didn't quite get that wide range of structure. We got that despite the fact that towards the end, which was nice, we got I was raised, past simple passive, but it's not really enough, is it, to push it to C1. We had some attempt at like be it or which was fairly reasonably successful, but not totally accurate. And then I have been spending a lot of time with her in my childhood, which isn't an effective use of present perfect continuous. So we had some attempts at a wider range of structures, but not successful attempts. Same problem with fluency and coherence, a bit of a problem with the flow towards the end. Probably the last 40%, the last 30% was really just stacking, stacking descriptions of his grandma and why he likes her, which is very sweet as a as a human. It's a very, very sweet thing to show your respect for your grandma. Very nice, but for an IELTS test, yeah, it's not quite what we're looking for in part two. Vocab again, generally quite strong. Pronunciation quite slow, quite mechanical. Not a lot of intonation. When you're speaking about someone who you really love, like your dear grandma, we expect to hear this in your voice. We expect your pronunciation to enhance your meaning. Like, oh, my grandma, she's so sweet. I mean, this is some exaggeration, but we want to hear something in your pronunciation which is like emotive and positive and warm, but we don't quite hear that.
I was raised by her.
Okay.
Important do you think it is to learn with? Let's talk about families now in general. How important do you think it is to learn about your family history?
Well, based on my
We get another well.
experience,
I really like this based on my experience as a chunk of language. Very nice. I like it a lot.
it's very crucial.
Very crucial isn't quite right. So crucial is a strong adjective, and with our strong adjectives, we don't use very. So it's really crucial, fine. It's absolutely crucial, fine. But very crucial,
For everybody, because when you know your background, your historical background, and your ancestry.
Cool, good knowledge of word building there, that he knows that the noun for ancestor, the abstract noun for ancestor is ancestry. Not a lot of people know that. That's good.
It gives you strength to.
Good. Again, noun building. It gives you strength. Very nice. Don't quite get that full strength, but that's quite difficult, right? To combine that sound, the nasal string, with that sound. Strength. Not an easy word to pronounce.
Pursue something in your life, and I think
that's a nice collocation, to pursue something in your life. It feels a little bit academic, but okay.
That you feel this connection, this valuable experience and wisdom you've received from your ancestors.
So it seems like a fairly sophisticated idea, but it's really lacking in detail. I mean, is it? I don't know if I can quite link those things. Is it really crucial for every person to know about their ancestry? And do you really get the experience and wisdom of these people if you just learn about your ancestry? I'm not quite sure that I find this argument persuasive, but it's well explained.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think families might change in the future?
So it's a question related to future time. Let's see how he deals with it. We have a number of future time constructions in English.
Well,
we get a well.
Let me think.
Cool. He's buying some time with a phrase. Let me think.
I think that.
Let me think. I think that just feels a bit strange to have those two thinks next to each other. Not a big problem, but we know we have a number of alternatives to I think. So let me think. Well, I believe we will. That might be more appropriate.
Sure.
Sorry, I've just gone back.
Well, let me think. I think that the conventional structure of family.
Cool. The conventional structure, very nice collocation,
is going to change.
Is going to change. Nice. Future time construction.
I mean,
Nice little discourse marker.
maybe in the future there will be.
Cool. Maybe in the future there will be. Cool. So we get a bit of a hedging language and we get a bit of modality with will. Nice.
More unusual family with one parent, for example, or with without any children. And
cool. Ideas are clear. Answers are good, strong answers. But just notice the pauses, the mid-sentence pauses, hesitations, and thinking that goes into it to get there.
yeah, it can happen. So
not it can happen, but it might happen, it may happen, it could happen, but we don't use can to talk about like a possible future thing. So a bit of a breakdown there.
Yeah, I expect many changes will be happen.
Not will be happen, but will happen. I know Russian speakers all over the world want to use this will be happen, but will happen. Happen is just a verb. I will do something, it will happen. Some people want to say it will be happened, like passive, but happen cannot exist in the passive voice, so it will happen.
And do you agree that people nowadays prefer to spend their time with their friends more than with their family?
Well,
we get another well.
I don't think so. Of course, friends are an important part of our life, but
an important part of our lives.
At least.
But that's the first mistake I've heard with singular and plural, so I'm not worried about it.
At least in Russia, people tend to spend.
Cool, love this tend to, very nice.
Time and gather together with family.
Get together with family is better than gather together. Gather together is okay. A little bit old-fashioned, but okay.
So I would say that it's about two different types of relationships, because family is about adoption and
family is about adoption. I'm not quite sure what you mean there when you say family is about adoption.
Something special, I would say. While
and again, something special is just not very detailed.
Friends are more about just sharing common interests and just chatting about this life.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Let's talk more about friends now. Why do people sometimes stop being friends?
Well,
another well.
It varies.
It varies. I know it's a horrible word because we have the word variety, we have the word various, but the verb it varies. Varies. Sounds a bit like very, but like hair varies.
On circumstances, because of course we all can have some life problems, and usually they can be a kind of reason for breaking up. And
okay, but I want more detail there. It's not enough to say, oh, they can have some life problems and that can be the reason for breaking up. You don't break up with friends, you fall out with friends, you don't break up with them. But imagine that if you say like, oh, what happened? You used to be friends with Misha and now you're not. What happened? You say, oh, we had some life problems. Well, it's not quite satisfying, is it? We want, details. Like, oh, in some cases, I think people just drift apart. For example, when you were younger, you might have the same interests. Like maybe you go to the football stadium and you support the same team, but maybe one person continues their support for the team and the other person decides, they want to focus on their job, their career and their family life. And so, because they don't have that shared interest anymore, over time, they gradually drift apart. But in other cases, there can be something more dramatic. Like, for example, maybe one person does something very unethical, like a friend steals something, and then you decide you can't be friends with that person anymore, right? Those are details. It isn't quite enough to say there can be life issues, and that's why people can break up. Not detailed enough.
To stop being friends.
Again, bit of reformulation, but grammatical accuracy is good.
But I think that every person that come to our life,
Every person that comes. So we've had not many, but we have had a few. This is the second mistake with that verb to be. Not the verb to be, sorry. Second mistake with this present simple third person S. Every person comes.
life has some kind of purpose. I mean, this person can teach us and gives and can give us some life rules.
Glad he corrected that mistake.
And then when it's happened,
When it happens, not when it. Or when it's happened. Maybe he's using present perfect here. When it's happened. That could work.
think that
I think he's saying when it is happened, but maybe because he's using contracted form when it's happened, maybe it sounds like accurate present perfect. So fine. When it has happened, when it's happened.
people from our life just leave us.
And how has technology changed the way that we make new friends?
Well,
Another well, come on.
was technologies revolutionized the way how we communicate with each other. For example,
The way how we communicate, the way we do something, or the way how we do something. Just the way we do something, the way we communicate with each other. But it's fine.
I used to meet a lot with my friends, but
Cool. Comparing past with present. I love it. I used to meet a lot with my friends. Maybe I used to meet up a lot with my friends. I used to meet my friends in real life, or I used to meet up with my friends in real life, but not I used to meet with my friends in real life. It's a bit strange.
now I have a tendency to just
Cool, but now I have a tendency again. Good word building. Vocab is very, very strong.
communicate with them on social media and using messengers, for example.
Messengers,
And
good.
frankly speaking, I find it quite.
Russians love this, frankly speaking, too. I just don't like it. I think there are other options like honestly, or to be honest with you, or to tell you the truth. I don't like frankly speaking. I find it so old fashioned. Russians are the only people I know who use it, and maybe some other IELTS candidates from different parts of the world, but frankly speaking, I don't like frankly speaking. But I can't say there's anything wrong with it. It's, in the test, absolutely fine.
Harmful, I would say, because we're deprived those kind of connections between each other, and we tend to be more superficial, I would say.
Great.
We do not delve into these relationships, and
Great. Collocation, delve into.
we tend to concentrate more on yourself rather
Bit of repetition of tend to. I mean, it's okay.
than on others.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of the test.
All right, so let's get into some scores, shall we? Okay, let's start with fluency and coherence. What to say, what to say, what to say. So the score I'm going to award for fluency and coherence is 6. This is a mixed bag. So I'm going to say the length of your answers is great, and your ideas are generally easy to follow, relevant to the question, and that's it. Generally easy to follow and relevant to the question. So all of that's very, very good, right? So why is it 6, not a 7? Unfortunately, you rely on slow speech to extend your answers fully, and some mid-sentence hesitations are quite noticeable. So good with the length of the answers, good with the quality, like the sophistication of the answers. They are really relevant to the question. All of that stuff is good. If you could speed it up a little bit, you might lose a bit of accuracy, but unfortunately, it doesn't come there's not a nice flow of speech. It's very broken up and in parts mechanical, which will affect fluency and coherence and later pronunciation. Lexical resource. Is there enough for an 8? Not quite. You are close to the 8. I will say you are very close to the 8. You are very close to an 8. Your range of vocab is great, but this range is often about speaking in general. So, you know, tend to do something, a tendency to do something, strength. All of that is very, very good word building. Very, very good word building, but maybe some more topic specific vocab might be good. We did get some like ancestry and messengers. That was good, but that's not the thing that's really holding you back from the 8. Maybe there are just a few too many occasions where I think the vocab isn't quite precise enough for the 8. The example that I'll point to is this visit. Like, oh, I visit this restaurant. It's like, well, it's okay, but it's just not quite precise. And visit isn't the only thing there. You said like a lot of places that are sought after. I'm not quite sure if we describe holiday destinations as sought after, and a few other areas where it's like, you're kind of so close to the 8, but not quite. Okay, grammatical range and accuracy. I think this one I can give a 6 for this. The first time when I was doing the test with Artem, I thought maybe grammatical range and accuracy is quite weak. Maybe it's just a 5 because there were some basic mistakes, but those ones were quite rare. So in general, your grammar is very accurate, I would say. But there are a few mistakes with basic grammar. It will be happen, every person come, or the gatherings is, some small basic mistakes. There are a few mistakes with basic grammar. These are slips, they are not systematic mistakes, because you get it right sometimes, but it seems that sometimes you just forget the grammar. That's fine. There are some attempts at more complex structures, but these attempts often result in mistakes. So when you try to use have been doing, when you try to use be it, it's just not quite right. Okay, so that's why you get the 6. Pronunciation, I think I can give the 6 for this too. So again, I'm going to go with the most important part. In general, it is very easy to understand everything you say. You have a good phonological range. Not a full phonological range. There are still some problems with the and the th, and even with the v. So a few small problems with some consonant sounds. The major problem is your intonation, which stays flat through large parts. I don't know if I can say most, but through large parts of the test. So very often your intonation is noticeably flat, so we don't get more out of it. But 6, 7, 6, 6. So overall that gives you 6.25, which rounds down, unfortunately, to a 6.0. So key areas of improvement. I know it's not mentioned here, but one thing I will say is try not to answer every question with, try not to start every answer with well. It's just a small thing, but it does leave a bad impression. So try not to start every answer with well. The other parts, yeah, no huge weaknesses, and I can't see any areas to improve really. I mean, simple areas to improve. Try to add more intonation to your pronunciation. And I know it's horrible. But be aware that your speaking is fairly slow, and this negatively affects your score for fluency. Really not easy to speed up as a speaker. And what we don't want... Oh, sorry, that's just disappeared from... Just 1 second. Sorry, something has happened with my... Speaking... Sorry about this, just 1 moment. Okay, we're back. Sorry, I think there's some shortcut. I use something called OBS, and I think there's some problem with OBS when I use speech marks. Anyway, I hope you didn't miss too much of that. But these are the key areas of improvement, just to repeat. So try not to start every answer with well. Try to add more intonation to your pronunciation. Be aware that your speaking is fairly slow and that this negatively affects your score for fluency. Just going to put a comma there. I know it's a difficult thing to speed up, but if you can speed up your speech, you have a better chance of getting that 7 for fluency and coherence. If you can just tidy up those basic mistakes and maybe add a few more wider range of grammatical structures, that would be enough to push you to a 7. For pronunciation, we have to see major improvements again with the speed of the speech and the intonation to get you to that 7. I think in the test you'll probably get 6.5, maybe you'll get a 7, and certainly I don't want you to speed up if speeding up makes your accuracy worse, because I think your grammatical accuracy is quite decent, and I think when you slow down you do find good words to use, which really, gets you to that 7 in lexical resource. So it's up to you to decide how much you want to sacrifice of your accuracy in order to improve your fluency. But I think 6.25 is about fair, the higher end of upper intermediate, maybe not quite high enough for the C1. So I hope that was useful for you, Artem, and I hope it was useful for anyone else watching this. I also hope we didn't miss too much when my program jumped to a different slide, so sorry about that. I am still doing some free writing checks and some free practice tests on this channel. I am going to change the way that we apply for tests soon, but that hasn't happened yet. So at the moment, if you would like a free practice speaking test with feedback, or if you would like an IELTS writing check, then you can contact me either by Gmail or by Facebook. Information on how to contact me is given below. Please do be patient because I have a lot of requests at the moment. But for now, I will leave it there. Have a wonderful evening and see you again. Bye-bye.